Ready to do this? Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about my story. Kind of like where I came up from, what I've learned, what I've gone through, what I plan on doing, things like that. I had a really painful night back in 2020. I was extremely mad, and I remember driving and I found myself like banging my head on the steering wheel, screaming, not wanting to be here anymore, not giving a crap about how fast I was going, what would have happened to me. I just really didn't care. And I was super angry at the world. I was irritable. I was depressed. I was just going through a really hard time. Thankfully, nothing happened to me. Thankfully, I was able to get back to my grandpa's house in one piece. And I remember, so I'm walking into the house. I was staying in my grandpa's basement at the time. Walking down the stairs, started walking to the bathroom, and I caught my own eye. I looked myself in the mirror, I had bloodshot eyes, angry, exhausted, and just looking at myself in the mirror, and I was like, Peyton, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life, man? Like, how did you get to this point? How did you get this far gone? Like, why are you depressed? Why are you doing these things? Why are you so angry? And I started to question. I was questioning my existence. So I grew up, we were going to the church occasionally, especially on holidays, on special events, or if we were just feeling up to it. And I would pray every night. You know, I believed in God growing up from a very young age. I would pray at night. And that continued for a very long time. I was very lukewarm with it though. I would read Bible verses, but I wouldn't act on those Bible verses. I wouldn't study the material. I wouldn't try to get better. And so I was still in that realm of my spiritual journey. And I remember I had nothing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to reach out to. All I knew was I could talk to God, and that's what I did. So I walked over to my bed. I got down on my knees, and I was like, God, please show me a different route. Help me get better. I need change in my life. I don't know what's going on. And it's crazy because 5 weeks after the instance in the car and then me saying the prayer, I left for the Navy. I literally signed a contract, left home, left everything behind, didn't have anything, didn't know anybody, full sent it. I was so sick of my situation that I took one of the biggest risks that I could have taken at the time. And so before all of this happened, obviously there was more life events, there was different traumas, there was a lot more that went on in my life because I was 21. I turned 22 in boot camp. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit more about like my upbringing. So my mom had me 2 months after she turned 17. So she was extremely young and she didn't have too much going on for her. You know, she wasn't really able to give me the nurturing and the love and the providence that I needed as a small child. So I moved in with her parents for a little bit, my grandparents, and stayed with them for I think about a year or two. My mom was obviously still in the picture, so was my father. And then whenever I was around like 2, I remember hearing about my grandma calling my dad and saying, "Hey, do you think you can take care of Peyton?" And my dad said yes. And so I moved in with my dad. He had his life together. He was running his own business. He was married. And so I stayed with him, and I stayed with him from around like 2 until I was like 9, because in that little area of life, there was a lot of events that went on. So I don't want to get too much in detail because I love both of my parents. I know that they've made mistakes. I know that they have done wrong things. But everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does wrong things. You live, you learn, you grow. And so I'm going to make it somewhat quick, but I do want to put emphasis on like how it made me feel as a kid. And so my dad, he ended up making a wrong decision and got a divorce. And I had 2 other sisters that my dad had with my stepmom. And whenever they got a divorce, they moved away. I grew up with those 2 girls. They were really close to me, my sisters, and it was pretty cool because like we would have Christmases, we would have breakfast together, we'd have dinner together, and it felt like an actual family for a little bit. And then they moved away, and I was still staying with my dad. And it was crazy times. Really, I was young, I was confused, I didn't know what was going on. And there was a bunch of different people coming in and out of my life, in and out of his life, within the house. I just remember always being like super uncomfortable, like who's this new person? Oh, dad's new girlfriend. And I could go way into detail with that, but I'm not going to. And I don't remember the year, but I was around 7. So from the time I was like 2 to like 7, somewhat of a regular upcoming. Then stuff started to go downhill really quick. And whenever I was 7, I remember driving back home from, I think it was like a sporting event or something, soccer game maybe, and I remember seeing like fire trucks in the distance. We were pulling up to the house. I was like, "Oh no, what's going on up there? Look, Dad, like what is that?" And we get closer to the house, and it's in flames. Like the whole rooftop is in flames. It's engulfed with flames, and there's fire trucks spraying water on it. And I'm just a young kid. I'm traumatized. I'm thinking about all my toys. I'm thinking about all the stuff that I have. I used to have little collections of like rocks and action figures, all these different things. And I just remember being so distraught, just so sad. Like, I'm losing all my stuff, man. First, I lose my sisters. I barely know my mom. My dad's struggling. And I lose all my stuff too. And I remember I stayed with my grandparents on my dad's side that night. And I was staying there. I remember it just felt so warm. It felt so at home. They were so welcoming. I had good food. I got good sleep. And I stayed with them for a couple weeks. And then as the fire and everything kind of settled down, my dad was trying to put the house back together. He was trying to build it back up because he owned a company at the time. He was really good with tools and building and all that kind of stuff. And so he was trying to put the house back together, but it really just wasn't working out. I think he started having some other things going on with the business, and he started struggling, and then he ended up losing the house. And from there, I ended up staying with my grandparents. And I stayed with my grandparents from that point on. I was probably around like 8 years old until I graduated high school. All throughout that time, my dad was still struggling with these things. I still felt neglection between parents. There was always drama. There was always a new crazy thing going on. Always. I have so many stories whenever it comes to like crazy girlfriends and stuff like that. But I'm not going to get into that. I grew up with my grandparents, like I said, from like 8 until I graduated high school. And I graduated high school in 2018. All throughout school, all I really cared about was sports, doing degenerate things with my friends, like ding-dong ditching. But we also played, like I mentioned, sports. So we couldn't be like too dumb. We couldn't do that much of stupid stuff because we love sports. Sports were huge within the school program that I went through. We would spend a lot of time going around, ditching, lighting fireworks, blowing things up, having big bonfires, fishing, all kinds of stuff, really. We try to make the most out of it. Definitely spent too much time chasing girls, but I didn't pay too much attention to my academics. I remember, even since I was a little boy, I was always getting in trouble. I was always getting disciplinary action. I was always going to the principals, getting like ISS. And I just really didn't care about school. All I cared about was sports. What are we going to do this weekend? What are we going to do tonight? I was always hanging out with the boys who like playing sports. Like, just a regular dude whenever it comes to that aspect. School, although I didn't care too much about academics, I still made sure I got good grades so that I can play. And I wouldn't really study. I would just get my homework done. And so I would get like A's and B's, occasional C's, whatever I could do to pass. I just didn't give it as much effort as I should have. I was so focused on like dealing with like the trauma and the things that was happening within my life that it was really hard to focus in school. And I felt better whenever I played sports. I felt better whenever I lifted weights. And that's what I did, and that's what I focused on. So all throughout school, I did what I needed to do to pass. I enjoyed myself. I had a lot of fun. I had some really good friends growing up. Everybody was just so close-knit. I'm so blessed to have those guys that I grew up with, because that made me realize what true brotherhood is. Outside of sports, within sports, I just had some really good dudes that I enjoyed spending time with. And I graduated in 2018. 2 months after that, mind you, I haven't seen my sisters in a couple of years. It's probably been about 5 years. So we got this family vacation planned for July. End of June, beginning of July. And I'm with my grandparents, and we're going out to Texas. We are going to go camping, and we're going to pick up my sisters, and we're going to have a good time. I remember my grandmother, she couldn't really do too much. She couldn't walk too far. I remember she would walk 15, 20 feet, and she would have to sit down. Sometimes if we walked too much, she'd throw up. We kept wondering, what's going on? She's like, oh, I just have some lung things going on. stuffed up. And my grandpa kept saying, no, we need to go to the doctor. We need to figure out what's going on. She's like, no, I want to spend time with my grandkids. And so he accepted it, and we had a really good time. We're headed back home to Missouri. That's where I'm from. We get there and everything, and we're back home. I take my sisters, I think, to a park or something. We're hanging out, having a good time. I get a call from my grandpa, and he's like, hey, Peyton, I'm going way over the speed limit. I'm heading to Liberty Hospital. Your grandma is screaming in pain. I don't know if she's going to make it. Meet me there as soon as you can. I gotta go. Bye. Hangs up the phone. I'm with my sisters. I'm having a good time. I'm like, what? What could this be? What could this possibly be? Like, what's going on? I'm freaking out. So, girls, hop in the car. We gotta go. I jump in the car. Start hauling buns to the hospital. And my grandma's in there. Can't see her. You know, they're telling us she may be okay. They don't know really what's going on. So we're waiting it out. The next day, we find out that she's been having a 2-week heart attack. And it's been going on the whole entire time that we were on vacation. She's going through chest tightness, pain, all these things. And she wasn't speaking up to us. We're just hoping the best, you know, put some stents in there. Please just help her get better. We're waiting. Another day passes. We have stents in there. You know, she seems to be doing better. We have all family flying in, coming in, hoping that she's okay. And so we're just waiting, spending a lot of time in the hospital. Another day passed. It's 4th of July. I remember sitting in this little room. There was chairs everywhere. It was like an outpatient room. All my family's in there. And I hear like these sirens or whatever. They start saying something like code red or I don't remember what it was. And I'm like, what's going on? So I get up, I look out, and I see my grandma on the bed that they have her laid in. And they're doing the shock things. And she's skirting right in front of me. All my family are behind me, my sisters, grandpa. My grandpa and her they were together for 38 years. And so this is the love of his life. He married her at 17. Seeing this firsthand was horrible. She's going past. They take her to another room. We're all freaking out. We didn't know what's going on. 5, maybe 10 minutes pass, and doctor comes out and says, Julie has passed away. Everybody is in shock. We are so saddened by this news. I just remember falling down to the ground. God, why? Why? This is all I have. This is everything that I have. She seems to be the only person that actually cares about me. She was like my mom. Why? You know, I gotta carry on with my life. I can't just pity me. So, I stayed with my grandpa. This is whenever I first graduated. I had planned to go into a university. I said, no, I want to stay home. Stayed with my grandpa. It was just him and I. And I started working with my dad. He would do like remodel stuff. So I'd work with him, make a little bit of money just to pay for like my car and other bills, little bills that I had. My grandpa was just getting extremely, extremely sad. He worked for FedEx truck driver. I'd call him and be like, "Hey, Grandpa, like, I just got home. Do you want me to cook you some dinner?" He would tell me, no, he's not hungry. He's not hungry. He would tell me how he's crying on the roads. He can't even see the roads. He's just so sad, just so heartbroken. And every single night he would come home, he wouldn't even be able to talk to anybody. He wouldn't open up. He was just sad. And there was just literally nothing I could do. He was going through heartbreak, and it was very painful to watch. It got to the point where I just couldn't watch it anymore, so I moved out. You know, I was bouncing different houses, and I moved out, and I started living with a girlfriend of mine just for a little bit, and I was going to a community college at Maple Woods, lifting weights. It's all I enjoy doing. Just really questioning my existence, because this is when I got on antidepressants. This is when everything in my life just seemed to be fake. I couldn't really recognize like real from like not real. Like I just constantly lived with anxiety. I was constantly worried about like what is going to happen with my dad. But the cool thing about my dad doing these jobs with like decks and fences and remodel work and some electrical work is like I really enjoyed this stuff, because growing up I would go work with him on the weekends here and there. I'd go to the job sites, and I enjoyed it. So I was making good money. I questioned like, why am I even going to school? Like, what am I going to school for? So I ended up dropping out of that, just working with my dad. And then this is where I start really dealing with questioning myself. There was always something coming up, and there just wasn't much structure, and so I kind of like struggled with that. It's probably why I really enjoy structure and like organization now, is because it was so unorganized then. But I started like really struggling. I was, smoking weed. I was turning up on the weekends with the boys. And I was talking to my girlfriend, and she really just wanted the best for me. She wanted me to change. She wanted me to move on to different things, different beginnings. She didn't like to see me struggling or going through pain, but I was still just turning up just to like mask the pain. And then that's whenever I got to the point of hitting my head on the steering wheel, not wanting to be here anymore. 5 weeks later, joined the Navy. Prior to joining the Navy, you have to be sober. So I quit smoking, quit doing these things, and I left. I went to boot camp. I remember getting a couple calls, calling my girlfriend, "Hey, I miss you. This sucks. Hope you're doing good." Calling my grandpa, checking in on my dad. Get done with boot camp. I moved to Virginia. That's my first duty station. I'm living on the ship. I get my car out there, so that's cool. I can drive around. I can go to the beach. But I'm living on the ship. I'm isolated. I'm by myself. I don't know anybody. I'm really missing my family. I'm really missing my girlfriend. Questioning if I made a mistake. This goes on for about a year. Very isolated. I get very lonely. I start like getting into the same habits again. The same habits that I tried leaving behind. I was drinking a lot by myself. I'll just sit in my car, smash a little 6-pack, and then go back onto the boat. I'll do this for an extended period of time. I started getting like super down on myself. It sucked. Like I was suffering, every single day. I didn't want to be there at all, so I started praying again. I came in as an undesignated rate. The recruiter didn't tell me exactly what that meant, so kind of got screwed there, but it worked out in the end. I went to this convention thing. I told them, because you have 2 years where you don't necessarily have a job, but you try these different jobs, see which one you like, and then you can strike for that job. And whenever your time comes, you usually have to wait like 2 years. So 2 years has come, and I go to this convention. I'm looking at everything. Oh, this is cool. Like, nah, this sucks. Like, the Navy sucks. Like, I want to get out. Like, I'm gonna go back home. I'm gonna work with my dad, and I'm telling them all these things, and I'm seeing all these opportunities right in front of my face, and I just say, no, I don't want to do this. So I told them, thank you for the opportunities for these different jobs, but this isn't for me. I want to get out in a year. And I go back to my car. I call my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, I think I just made a mistake because I feel really bad about this. I feel like almost guilty. I don't know if this is the right decision to get out. And she's like, well, pray about it. Pray about it. You know, go see if they have some other options. Maybe you can go somewhere really nice. San Diego. And so I'm sitting there in my car. I'm praying, God, give me guidance. Like, what should I do here? I'm lost. So I get this urge, like I'm missing out on opportunity. So I go back in there, like, hey, because I also knew that the aviation side was a lot better. So I went in there and asked, like, hey, do you have an AE rate available, aviation electrician, and do you have it in San Diego? And I was asking these things, and they're like, yeah, there's this spot. I'm just contemplating, like, 1 hour ago, I was getting out of the Navy. Now I might extend 3 more years and go to San Diego. And I look back, and I was like, well, I already took a risk to join the Navy. I might as well actually see what Navy's about. So, striked. A couple months later, I left for sea school. And then after that, packed up all my stuff. My girlfriend and I, boom, headed out to San Diego. Whenever we got to San Diego, we got legally married. We knew that we were going to be together forever. I knew that she was the one for me. She always wanted the best for me. We were best friends. It just made the most sense at the time. And so we got legally married. Moved to San Diego. I get my very first apartment. I know I'm kind of like backtracking here, but I wanted to really emphasize this thing that happened in my life whenever I was in Virginia. So I was living on the boat, right? And I was praying. I was trying to find community. And this dude on the boat was like, hey, there's this group that I go to. So I started going to this group on Friday nights. It was a men's group. Met this guy named Gary. Amazing guy. God-fearing man. Time goes on. I get involved with this group. And it's about 1 month before I left for sea school. And I told Gary, I was like, man, I'm going through so much. I got so much trauma. I got so much stuff going on in my life. I don't want to live on the boat anymore, because I know he like discipled men and helped them overcome their trauma, helped them find God, grow closer to God. And I was like, Gary, can you like help me, man? And he said, yeah, how about this? Come live with me for a month prior to going to your sea school, which I would go to sea school for a couple months, and then I would move to San Diego with my fiance. He said, come live with me for a month. And so, okay. definitely better than living on the boat. I can cook my own food, I can go to the gym, I can sleep in a bed. And so I did it. And it was the absolute most life-changing experience of my entire life because this man poured everything into me. We called it peeling the onion. We started with the big things, the big traumas, and we just started working down, smaller trauma, just peeling away these layers of things that happened in my life. Started getting deep, man. I remember sitting on the couch. He's praying for me, man. I'm bawling. My eyes are watering. I'm like, dude, what? Why do I feel this way? I'm just letting all this pain out. All this weight lifted off of my shoulders, and Jesus is just saving me right there. And this man is helping me do that. And so I lived with him for a month, and it was life-changing. I ended up getting baptized. My fiance's grandpa is a pastor. He baptized me, and I took the risk. January 3rd, 2023, I got my first apartment in San Diego. Within 6 months, I got into the best shape of my entire life. I started posting more content about my gym routine, some tips, some educational stuff. And so we got there in January. I started my business in March. I took the risk because I took the risk to join the Navy. I took the risk to go move in with Gary. I took the risk to get legally married. I took the risk to move to San Diego. And I was like starting to see so much growth and so many good things happening to me whenever I would take risks. So I took another risk. I started the business. At this time, I was still working full-time with the Navy. Luckily, on airside, it's more of like a 9 to 5. I was working night shift, so I'd work from like 2:30 to 11:30. Give myself a little bit of time in the mornings to work out, to hang out, go to the pool, do some coaching. And I did this for a year, but I was still dealing with vices. I was still dealing with things that weren't going to get me to the next level. And let's fast forward another year. January 25th, 2025. I get asked, hey, we need you. You're going to get deployed. In my whole entire Navy career, I always avoided being deployed. I was afraid. I didn't know what to expect. I was running this business now. I don't want to get deployed, man. And they deploy me. And I was deployed for 7 months. Within those 7 months, I was battling my demons, bro. I was praying every day. I was really working through things that I had to work through. I wanted to get better. I wanted to be a better man. I wanted to show up better on my business. I wanted to stop being a lukewarm Christian. I wanted to actually commit to what life has to offer. And so I started journaling a ton whenever I was out there. I started listening to a lot of podcasts, watching a lot of educational YouTube, reading. I was reading my Bible every night and just really digging into these areas that I needed to improve, these areas that I was struggling in. And yeah, I struggled, but I started working through these things. And it sucked every single day. Every single day waking up, I was pretty much suffering. Like, you'd get up, oh, same thing, different day. Go to bed, you got like heart palpitations because you're so anxious just from like being so high strung all day. And it was a struggle. We saw some cool ports. I got really close with the guys out there. But I was just battling these inner demons. I had this thing talking to me every single day, like, oh, you should do this. You should quit your business. Just all the things that I struggled with was just hitting me hard. And so I started to pray. I was like, God, help me overcome this lust issue. God, help me overcome this irritability issue. God, help me to let go. God, show me the vision. Show me what I need to do with my life. Show me everything. I'm ready to tap into this different realm. I'm tired of being a lukewarm Christian. I'm tired of being a lukewarm man. I'm tired of being lukewarm with everything in my life. I'm ready to commit to becoming a better person, a better Christian, now husband. So I get through it. Man. For the longest time, I didn't think I could go on this deployment. I just thought like, oh, I'm going to be so depressed. Like, this is going to be so hard. I'm going to leave everything I have behind. I'm going to, my business, all the hard work that I put in is just going to be thrown out the window. And boy, was I wrong, because that whole entire 7 months, I was just building fire, bro. I was just putting wood in my fire, and I was fueling it. Every single day for 7 months straight, I was just dialed. I was dialed in on my mind. I was dialed into what God has to do for my life. I was dialed in to overcoming my vices. And so I get back in August. I surprise my wife. I surprise her. Hi, I'm home. Feels so good to be back. We freaking did it, baby. We freaking did it. Look where we have gotten. Look where I am. I remember getting home because I bought this house, townhome in San Diego. I used my VA loan, and I bought this house. I like taking risk, as you can see. So I bought this house. I get back home. I'm in my house. I'm on a high for like 3 weeks. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. My wife is so beautiful. My house is so unique. It's so cool. There's grass. I can go to a gym. I can go to the ocean and go swimming. I can go eat some good food. I can meal prep. And so I was just on this high for a really long time. And that's where I am today. I started doing better with my business. I started implementing my vision into my life. I'm setting better goals. I am bettering my overall life. I'm bettering my marriage. I have a wedding in November. We're actually going to celebrate. And I get out of the Navy in 6 months. And my goal is to take the business that I've built full time, and then take my benefit from the Navy, the GI Bill, go to school for sports psychology, study, get paid housing, work on the business, do this for a couple years, stay here for a little bit, enjoy San Diego, continue to network, enjoy this beautiful, beautiful state. And then who knows? I might move, I might stay here, I don't know. I'm going to continue to tap into what God wants for my life. And I'm going to continue to surrender to Him and just really see the prosperity that God is going to provide me with, because I struggled for so long, and I've always had this selfish ambition. And I was always focused on like building like my kingdom. Like, oh, what's Peyton gonna do? And I put a stop to that a couple weeks ago. I had a realization right whenever I got home that this isn't my kingdom. What can I do to build God's kingdom? I was praying for conviction. And I got fully surrendered. I started letting go. And I'm letting God. And that's my story so far up to this point. You know, it's been a rough journey. There's obviously some things that I didn't talk about. There's a lot of pain and trauma that I went through. But I scratched the surface, and I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube, my very first YouTube video. I just want to be more vulnerable with you guys. I truly feel like I can help thousands and thousands of men overcome their trauma and tap into their potential and live their dream life. That's literally what I want to do. I want to motivate people to change. Once they have the motivation, they start changing. I want to implement discipline into their life. Once they start getting disciplined, once they start seeing results, I want them to paint a vision. Once they paint the vision, they just start executing on it, and then they live their dream life. And that's what I want to do to men. That's what I want to help them do because I'm doing it for myself. And so, thank you guys for listening. If you listen to this all the way through, I'm not the best at this type of thing. I'm camera shy. I'm an introvert. But you know, I don't fear anything, man. I really don't. I'm here to inspire others. I'm here to tell people my story. And I'm here to help people get better. And so, thank you. Thank you for watching this. This will be my very first YouTube video. And I'm excited to continue to the journey, continue building the business, and continue to surrender to God. So, let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's keep getting better.